All right, guys, we got the Chevy Suburban build all finished up. You guys might have seen this project once before when we did the door panels. The customer was so happy with those. We did them in Florida. We moved to Tennessee. He decided to ship this vehicle down to us to have an upgrade done, get a new subwoofer box. He went from 415s to 615s. We're running 6 Sundown Audio X Series 15s in here. We got a quad baffle on it with flush mount, 1.5 inch all the way around, 3/4 inch plexiglass on the front and the port with a very cool design. I like how you can see through the front and the port walls. Inside there, we got the port bracing with the plexiglass to kind of continue the theme through. White gloss interior, black bed liner on the outside. Now, normally I would like to do subs up, port back in an SUV, but because of size constrictions, trying to fit 615s, accommodating a large battery bank that's in the front of this box, we had to bring the box all the way back to the back hatch, which required us to do a port up design. But I am very happy with how this port up design worked out. It sounds phenomenal and looks even better in this vehicle. Plus, it's not going to get choked out by the back hatch closing on it. So we're going to go over the rest of this build and show you guys what else we did. All right, then in between the box and the second row seating, we got 6 excess power. I believe they're D3400s, the Gym Machine Works bus bars, the SMD fuse block on there, the 8-spot fuse block. We have 4 runs of power coming to the back, a whole bunch of grounds back here as well. We got this battery box that goes over it. Got all the subwoofer wiring nicely secured, and then the Tech Flex kind of continue the look all the way through the build. As you see in this amp rack right here, we have the Tech Flex as well. Now we're running 3 Sound Digital 5Ks. These other 2 Sound Digital Evo X's, I'm not quite familiar on what these are. This one here and this one here and this one here, I don't know the exact power rating, but basically what we're doing is we're running the 3 bass amps. We got 1, 2, 3 there. We're gonna have 2 subs per amp, and then we have 2 mids amps. So one is gonna run the Sundown Audio Neo 6.5s. We got the Sundown Audio tweeters on this, and then the Def Bounce Apocalypse Arnold 8s on this right here. We're basically running it in a 4-way active setup with sub amp, mid amp, mid woofer, and a highs amp. Now I'm using my Sundowns as kind of the lower end of the mid-range. The Arnolds are playing all my higher end, and obviously the tweeters are picking up the super high frequencies. So another thing that we did, which was a pretty easy task actually, was install this custom Soundman tablet dash. Now the customer went and contacted Soundman himself. I didn't really deal with any of that situation, but they did send me this beautiful dash. This is made for the customer's tablet, and basically it came with this whole cutout here. I mounted in a bracket behind it to hold this radio that we're going to run everything off of. The tablet is going to basically just be our source right here. Here's our source tablet. Radio is mounted in here. We had to set it back so the volume knob would not interfere. This thing fits very nicely though. Doug from Soundman did a very good job on this thing. A little dusty, but beautiful dash. Only thing I'll gripe about is a little hard to take out, but other than that, great work. Let's see, we're gonna blame this on being one-handed, I suppose. Oh yeah, it's a two-hand operation for sure. All right, here's another area we worked on. Now again, this has been worked on by a couple shops, so some of this is new, some of this is freshened up. Now what I went ahead and did is I went and tech flexed everything in the whole vehicle, kind of took away and added some things. What we did add was the 4-spot SMD fuse block. We added the terminal connection on this. We don't have one here. I only put one here because when you stack and you're so close to the hood, I was a little worried about the clearance, especially with this being the positive terminal here. Now the ground one wouldn't have been as big of an issue. Obviously you don't want a battery terminal touching the hood, but if it was vice versa, wouldn't have been as big of a deal. And again, we got basically 2 runs, 1 to each alt. We got another 2 runs going to this other excess power battery here and the 2-spot SMD fuse block here. Now this is all secured to the firewall, and I did the same thing as I did on the back fuse block, isolated it with a piece of acrylic. So this acrylic is secured separately to the firewall. The fuse block is secured separately to the acrylic, so gives a good isolator there. Now we went ahead and right here had some diamond plating, bent myself up a bracket right here to kind of hold this 4-spot. This thing is super solid. I mean, that thing, it's not going anywhere. We use factory bolts. Now technically this back plate is grounded because it is using the factory bolt off of there. Not only it's bolted into the firewall, so any piece of metal theoretically would be grounded in that situation. Let's use the isolator pad. It does have the black padding, the factory firewall back padding. Either way, I went ahead and added some extra security to the situation. Now Steve Mead, when he makes the fuse box, he makes sure to, these bolts that go all the way through, they fill them in with some sort of like acrylic or epoxy, so the bolts don't actually make any sort of contact with it. But I wanted to make quadruple sure, so went ahead to use another piece of plexiglass, mounted that independently to the piece of diamond plating, and then mounted the fuse block to the piece of plexiglass to kind of give us some extra isolation. And we had an additional run that was already existing in the car, a power run going to the back. No real reason to get rid of that, but again, we did freshen that up. Went ahead, went around, kind of sanded up some of these grounds, make sure it's all touching good metal, cleaned up a few things. There was a few grounds on the alts. We added some more, added some engine grounds, body grounds. Got one tucked way back here if you could see it. Even the ones you can't see, we got covered in this Tech Flex sleeving, all heat shrink, kind of color coordinated and matched. Looking very good. Should have done it before and after. I probably do have some before pictures of this thing, but it wasn't bad, but it definitely wasn't this good. And alternator setup, this is 2 Mechman alternators. I'm not sure on the exact amperage. I believe they're like 320s, maybe 370s. This one he had in the vehicle, or maybe this one he had in the vehicle longer, and then they swapped out for another one. He had a factory, they added in a second one. I did not install the bracket or the alternators. Definitely something that's doable. The bracket, it actually just mounts on very nicely. The guys who have figured out the dual alt brackets for these like GM bases, they have it down to a T for sure. All right, so to kind of rehash on these doors. Now, again, I know some of you guys might have seen these. We got 2 Sundown Audio Neo 6.5s in here, 2 Def Bounce Apocalypse Arnold 8s, and then the 2 Sundown Audio tweeters in there. Maybe you could see them. Now, these do have lights. It's daytime, so it makes it hard to see. I'll throw some pictures and videos in there so you guys can actually see them. Now, around here, we got an acrylic ring. This lights up with the LEDs. These are custom press fit grills. Obviously, all this whole door is custom made, built, wrapped by me. We went with like a 3-tone kind of wrap here. We got the first color here, second color here, and then we got the black as well, and it kind of ties in everything. He had some black on the dash, which I wanted to tie in, and then we went with the secondary color of the grill, getting as close to matching as this. Now this is a painted dash, and a lot of these, it's hard to match the painted dashes to actual vinyl, but we got pretty close in my opinion, if you ask me. And if anything, it definitely makes for a good like 3-tone, maybe a 4-tone look. Good color combo all the way around. But everything is fully functional factory wise. The switches are in the same factory location. Locks have not been modified, neither have the door handles, all in factory locations. Now this is like a year plus after these things have been done, and they're actually holding up tremendously well. And then the rear door, we have the same thing. We got 2 Sundown Audio Neo 6.5s and 2 Arnold Apocalypse 8s, 2 Sundown Audio tweeters. This right here is just a plexiglass insert with some lights in it. Again, we got the plexiglass surrounding with the press fit grills around the front. Lights in the door as well, all the way around. And again, these have been on the truck for a year now. They're holding up just amazingly. I'm definitely super happy with how well they're holding up after this long. Obviously that's going to be customer care, but good glue, good vinyl, good wrap job, that definitely helps as well.